to attack this point guard position because there isn't a ton of free agent point guards. There are point guards that may or may not be available that we keep mentioning or keep hearing about the Kings might have interest in. But like, where are you at with this? Because I think it's not just the biggest need. Like, if you're going to develop an identity, you have got to address this situation as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to come on and say, I know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I know who they're going to target. That's the thing with the new front office. Like, what will they? And I think what they would say is that it doesn't necessarily need to happen this offseason. Like, you're building blocks to eventually get where you want to be. But see, and my pushback would be, and I would hope to have conversations later this summer, before even free agency gets going, and maybe hopefully before the draft, where like you're built in a certain way that I've argued I don't think you can hit a hard reset button. Um, I know fans might say they would want that, but I just don't feel that this team, the way they're built presently, and I was talking about baseball in the last segment about how you get to September, things aren't working, you sell off all your pieces. Well, basketball's different. Like, because of luxury tax and aprons and all these, it's not that easy just to sell off all your pieces for assets and things like that. So, and especially in a small market where I've always argued, and I know there's some that'll push back, but I've always argued that based on the history of the team, that there really isn't an appetite to see a team do a full reset, rebuild right now, especially with ticket prices being the way they are and things like that. So, because of the success that you had in the semi-recent future, where you did punch your ticket to a playoff appearance against that Warriors series, and you still have pieces that are in the prime of their career that you should want to build around. I don't think it's that hard. No, let me step back. It is hard, but I don't think it would be that uh, miraculous, if you will, to be able to find the right pieces to put around some of these and build a winner, a team that can sustain playoff success. Maybe not a champion, but a team that can have some postseason success and sustain it. I think we've talked about it on the podcast a lot, where I look at 2027 as there's a financial cliff there, where there's a lot of these contracts as currently situated that kind of fall off a cliff and they become a whole bunch of wealth of money. Maybe you could argue that might be the time to do it if things don't work. But I think you're situated where if you're Scott Perry, you got to be pretty excited about what lies ahead for you with some of the moves you can make. Now, can he go out there? And in my opinion, I've always said, if you're going to be a team that's worth a damn in this league, you better have a top 15 point guard. That's better than half the other starters in the league.
This is where we strangely agree.
Yeah.
Like we do. Like and again, it's not disrespectful. I'm not trying to, like, the days of going out and signing Ty Lawson or signing Darren Collison, right, or signing, a mid-tier to second, the final third of the league in point guards. You can't really have success that way.
Right. And it depends on how you define, in my opinion, one of those top tier point guards. But to me, like, you just, it equates to winning. It equates to culture. It equates to so much. It's the most important piece on the floor. And you can argue, yes, you have a player like Domantas Sabonis who ends up being a point guard, but we've seen what it looks like when you don't have a true point guard. And you need one in the worst way in Sacramento. So everyone knows that. How you go about getting it? Can you get a John Morant? Can you get a Darius Garland? A Trae Young? There are pieces that I like. There are pieces I don't like. I don't know what they like, what they don't like yet. And I don't know if they look at the need right away of having a true top 15 point guard or using a filler piece to eventually get that top 10, 15 point guard a year, a season beyond from now. Because sometimes it takes some of those building blocks to be able to trade in your car and get the one you really want.
No, I get that. But I think the problem is that you're going to do death by mid-level in the in the time that you're trying to build that.
Right.
And like, I for one, like, if, again, people are like, hey, go get Drew Holiday, go get a guy like Chris Paul. Like, I would be fully on board with that.
With both of those?
If you had the guy that they were grooming to take over the position. The problem is you don't have that guy.
I don't know, man. So especially in the sense grooming, okay, that would insinuate that you've got somebody who's a draft pick who's on a rookie level contract, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, and this is just my own opinion here. I'm not saying that they have interest or zero interest in someone like Drew Holiday, But bringing in somebody of that age at that money who's going to make more than $30 million up until 28, and it goes from like, I think it's 34 to 37 in the final year.
Yeah.
That's just not the type of contract that you need to bring in to Sacramento, in my opinion. All respect to Drew Holiday. I think he's a hell of a player. I think he'd fit perfectly with maybe this first year. I don't know about the beyond years, whatever that looks like. But I don't see financially you have to be super responsible. Chris Paul, different story. Super old. I mean, what's that accomplish?
Well,
I
it
mean,
doesn't accomplish anything if you don't have the other guy. The one, I guess, the one advantage to having, if you were to go get Drew Holiday, is the Kings don't have a first round pick this year, but they do have one in 2026. They've got two in 2027. Maybe in one of those 2 years, you can get the young point guard that you need, and then Drew Holiday can spend a year or two, with him, helping him develop as a player. And again, like the one thing I will say about if the Kings were to go out and get Drew Holiday is you're likely giving up a 35-year-old to get a 35-year-old. You're not just adding, like, I don't think there's going to be a way in which the Kings walk into next season and have Drew Holiday and DeMar DeRozan, two 35, 36-year-olds on the roster at the same time. I don't think that that's going to be the case. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. But number one, just like,
you're crazy.
Player-wise, those two
that
would not work at all.
Well, and the other piece of that too is like with respect to Devin Carter, it's whether or not you see him as a point guard or not. Combo guard, you don't. I know you don't have a very high
opinion of him
as a player at the moment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of question marks that are there for sure.
Yeah.
It's going to be very important offseason for him. It's going to be a very important season coming up for him. And who knows with this front office how they view Devin Carter. They did not draft him in terms of at least Scott Perry, BJ Armstrong. So whatever his future is in Sacramento looks a little different, but he is on roster, and he is a guy who has shown flashes, in my opinion. I like a lot of the stuff he brings, but he needs some seasoning for sure. My thing is I still think you're capable of going out and finding a top tier point guard or a near top tier point guard. But your bread is buttered, in my opinion, by way of trade. Like, look, I think you might have to check me here. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I think he's going to be a free agent.
He's an unrestricted free agent.
I think there's not a lot of,
but he's not a true point guard.
True, and like neither is someone like Tyler Hero. I've talked. I think I used in the last last podcast where he does rank if you put him in a point guard situation, player efficiency wise, he's super high up there. He's somebody who's been kind of dangled in the past. This past offseason, there's a lot of rumors about him. Kind of a combo guard, but I think in my mind he's a better option at point guard than anything that they have on the roster. Somebody like Darius Garland, John Morant, obviously those are you're now going for the stars,
a taller tier.
But that's what you have to do, and I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't try and go for some of those pieces, especially if they're available. But I do also understand that this front office just got here, and you don't buy a Ferrari right out of the gate sometimes. But I would also argue, like, if you're going to do that, and let's just say, let's use the Drew Holiday example, since it's a report that's out there that has been out there and bandied about for the past several weeks. If you're going that way to use to use assets or whatever to land somebody like Drew Holiday at his stage in his career, you might as well go a little bit further and try and get the other piece that's 25 years old, already a star.
I'm with you. The one thing I think with Drew Holiday is that there's a way in which the Kings could work a deal where they're not giving up assets as much as they are giving up players. Like, again, you can get a Drew Holiday deal done with DeMar DeRozan and maybe a Devin Carter, right? So they're getting a first round pick from last year, the number 13 overall pick or whatever he was. And you're getting, an aging player, but a player who, again, put up 22 points per game, and they're going to be without Jason Tatum for a good portion of the season and might be able to fill in and help you in some way in DeMar DeRozan. Maybe that works, but in that situation, the Kings, I don't think, are delving into their war chest of draft picks.
Right.
I just don't think you have to. And especially with DeMar DeRozan's contract falling off the books next year and only costing $10 million, that's a far cry from the $35 million that Drew Holiday would make. And when you're that far up in the luxury tax, saving $25 million in 1 year is like off the charts big for them. So I could see that be a deal. But again, the reason why you'd bring in a Drew Holiday is if you have a plan for what's next. And what's next has got to be drafting a point guard next season or going out and getting, I don't know, maybe there is a young, underutilized point guard that you could bring in to work with Drew Holiday in year 1, year 2, and year 3, he's ready to take over. Maybe it's possible that a guy like Trey Mann or something could step in and you could have him, you could sign him to a low budget contract to have him work with Drew Holiday, and maybe you'd find something there. But the fact that you walk into an offseason, we talk about Devin Carter right now is the 4th shooting guard on this team.
Right.
I mean, that's their entire team is shooting guards and centers. So, I mean, that's a problem. And that's something that Scott Perry's going to have to address. As far as, I mean, we keep mentioning names here. You've said Trey, you've said Jaw, some of the higher rank guys. LaMelo Ball, he's one of the names that Scott Perry has been attached to in the past as a fan of LaMelo Ball. Are you in or are you out on that idea?
I mean, I'd be in. I just don't think he's going to be available. I know there's a report out there that everyone's untouchable but Brandon Miller, and if that's the case, yeah, you kick the tires, you have a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't believe you. I don't believe that LaMelo Ball will be available.
Have you seen this contract though?
I've seen it.
It's extreme.
But it's also like he's a hell of a player, and he's young. He's got a tremendous amount of upside.
I agree with all of that.
Yeah, it's worth the to quote a great movie, Girl Next Door. The juice is worth the squeeze.
Oh, look at that!
Have fun with that, Chatty House.
That was a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Brendan Nunez has not watched that movie.
No chance.
No chance. No chance. Absolutely at all. That our friend Brendan has watched that movie. LaMelo, 37 point. Well, let's just say 38, 41, 44, and 43, 46.4 million over the next 4 years.
Right. But again, I don't believe you. I don't believe he'll be available.
You don't believe
I think you keep him and Brandon Miller together. You that's what you build around. You don't build around just one player.
Yeah.
And you're not good enough. You like that's a team that did the reset button several times. You're not good enough. You've got 2 young stars or 2 young potential stars. You have to build around them and see what you have.
I just don't feel like they're ever going to get there, though. They're just so bad.
We could say the same thing about the Kings. I mean,
well, no, but at least the Kings have been to the playoffs
right.
in the last 3 years. But and the play-in, I mean, Charlotte, I mean, won 19 games again this year, and I mean, they're just horrifically bad.
But you at least have 2 players on your roster that is that unbottled potential or that bottled up potential.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. To where, with respect, outside of maybe Keegan Murray, a little bit of Keon Ellis, and a whole lot of Devin Carter, there's not a lot. You pretty much know what your entire roster is.
Mm-hmm.
Is there another step Malik Monk can get to? Absolutely. Is there another step that maybe Domantas Sabonis can get to? We've seen the evolution of his game a little bit, adding the 3-pointer this year. Sure. But you know what most of these guys are already.
Yeah.
Maybe Isaac Jones can be something, an NBA player. I'm not sure.
Keegan Murray definitely has room to grow.
Correct.
Keon Ellis has room to grow.
Right.
But outside of that, you're
looking at guys in Miller and LaMelo like all-stars, potential all-stars.
Yeah. Oh no, I think LaMelo. I mean, first of all, he is an all-star. He was an all-star.
Right.
He's only 23 years old. And you got to take some of the good with the bad with him. But at least he would be interesting. And
you think there's a lot of bad there? I think a lot of that's overblown.
No, his shot selection is god awful.
Well, he's on a terrible team. Put him with the likes of guys that are buckets, and that might not be a problem.
No, that's totally true. But we're talking about a guy who shoots 42% for his career. Like, his shot selection is bad. I mean, again, this last year, 11.2 3-point attempts per game.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I just shot 34%.
Look who he's playing with.
No, I agree, and they're bad. But I think that there is a dynamic scorer. I think there's a dynamic passer. I would love to see him in a situation where maybe he can find success. Plus, the other thing is, the kids love LaMelo Ball. I don't know what it is, but like, you go, I went to.
It's on TikTok, right? People love TikTok.
Yeah, I went to a high school volleyball tournament, and like half of the kids are wearing the LaMelo Ball look. Like, he is like the dude right now in the.
Well, Jared McCain too. Jared McCain is very popular amongst the today's youth in the NBA.
The Utes of America. Again, no one got that but me and you, Sean.
I know.
It's fine.
My cousin Vinny, watch it.
That's right. Watch it. Brennan Nunez, watch it.